Welcome back to Earnings Ninja for our second video. In today's weekly video, I'll be explaining what the stock market is in a really simple way. But first, I would like to make a very special announcement. In our state of pandemic and racial discrimination, many kids and adults, all the same, don't understand the true extent of discriminatory activity and its consequences, and the fact that everyone is different. ThroughOurEyes.net compiles narratives from people with unique perspectives and personal stories, reflecting so much diversity in our current world. Read recent well-written articles from several speakers and write a comment to engage yourself. It's completely free, educational, and important in our lives. Contact founders Sana Illuminati for more information. So, on to our topic of the day, the stock market. Merriam-Webster defined a stock as the proprietorship element in a corporation usually divided into shares and represented by transferable certificates. But what really is the stock market? Is it a marketplace for stocks? Maybe, but that's putting it a bit too simply. How do a company's stocks come to exist? Let's rewind and take it back from the top. A company wants to enter the stock exchange. Let us call this company C. C is an ambitious media company, but it is heavily in debt and wants to raise some money. But Jim, the CEO, cannot just ask any random person for funding. Jim doesn't want to borrow money or have a loan hanging over his head. He needs to find a more systematic and easier way to approach investors. So, Jim divides his company into something called shares, which are essentially very small fractions of a company and its assets. But Jim now needs to somehow get these shares to investors. So, he files to start an IPO, an initial public offering of shares at a price point. The day before debut in the stock market, underwriters, or institutions conducting the IPO, normally banks, determine a strong and fair price point for the IPO. All planned shares to be offered are then distributed to the underwriters. And it's IPO day. Underwriters are the only groups permitted to release their shares. Once an IPO debuts, normally around noon Eastern, a company's shares are open for trading. So now, Jim's media company, C, made a ton of money from selling shares to underwriters. But what about the stock market itself? The United States stock market is defined by three major indices: the S&P, Dow Jones, and NASDAQ. All three indices are to help investors see how the market is usually trending on a given day. Even a 2% dip could indicate significantly bad market news. And stock market conditions, the economy, bad PR are just a few factors that could potentially affect the price of a stock. Investors will buy or sell a stock based on whether or not they believe shares of a company can return a profit in some amount of time. But investors need to read the news, constantly changing market conditions, especially during this pandemic. Keep all traders and investors on high alert. And with all the buildup, stocks can crash or surge as much as 100%. More on stock recommendations in our previous video. Earnings information can send a stock tumbling, and vice versa. So many investors like to trade the news to make a quick profit. So as you can now tell, constant selling and buying reflect demand for a stock, in turn altering the price. A company has its duties to its investors too. Companies need to report accurate information to the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates trading and the stock market. Every company must publish important press releases. It also needs to report accurate earnings information on a quarterly basis, or 4 times a year. If a company fails to fulfill its duties to its investors, it could potentially be barred from trading on several stock exchanges. No company wants that. Most important news regarding partnerships and acquisitions are also added to press releases. So, as you can tell, the stock market is actually a very simple concept. However, the stock market is constantly fluctuating and must be revisited daily, or at least weekly, or one's portfolio could potentially stagnate. For more information on trading specifically, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click that notification bell so you won't miss any future lessons. Till then,